Okay, let me go over this quick video cast to teach all my members something very simple you can be looking at. Well, actually not simple, it's complicated. Nothing is simple in the world of financial markets, but another tool that you can use very effectively on a swing basis. This is the New York Stock Exchange McClellan Oscillator. Want to know an exact definition? Please feel free to visit Investopedia. It is basically an oversold, overbought indicator. Nothing works 100%. It's just simply another tool, weapon in your arsenal to attack the markets. So here we are with the McClellan Oscillator, which I've shown in many of my charts, and this is how you read it. This is simple. This you can get from stockcharts.com and just type in $NYMO. There is also the Nasdaq McClellan Oscillator. So here we are. These are the Bollinger Bands that I put on top, the blue lines. You can see what the legends are by looking on the top on the left-hand side, the BB, Bollinger Band. And we are at the bottom end of the Bollinger Band at -42. This is the reason why it's -42. It's simple, because we got oversold. We are oversold on an hourly basis. There's no question about that. On the daily basis, we're not fully oversold yet. So once we get to the bottom of the Bollinger, you generally have a little bounce. Now, the other thing that I put through, and these are my additions to reading the charts, is I put the pivot points here. You can go in there and look at the overlays below this chart and then just put, choose pivot points and put pivot points. This is the pivot. Now, what do pivots do? Want a real actual definition? Go out there and look at Investopedia. Google it. A pivot is where something pivots off. Really as simple as that. Then you have the resistance 1, resistance 2, and then you have the support 1, support 2. So we came down to about support 2 here at this point. Well, no, came down to almost support 1, S1. S1 is -49. We closed the day at roughly -42, 41.90. So at this point, it is natural to believe that that just standard procedure, we get a bounce up to the pivot, which is up here. Okay, this line. If we go, this resistance line, if you notice, is now at 23.17, negative 23.17. This is overbought conditions here. This is oversold conditions. So visually, we are oversold, right? So, but keep in mind that the resistance 1 and the resistance 2, which are dynamic numbers, are actually coming down. The resistance isn't up here anymore, even though the Bollinger is still up here. So what is it telling you? It's telling you that at this point, the market is trading in a pretty narrow band, and the resistance being pushed down is telling you the market can't go too much higher at this point unless we have a further decline and possibly get really oversold, which would be fantastic buying opportunities for the stock markets and for the stocks that we trade down here, which is in the 60s, -60s, -70. -70 plus is fantastic buying opportunities. -60, fantastic buying opportunity. What happens over the next couple of days? We have a sharp bounce. What do? I point out internals, I point out what the crossovers, all kinds of stuff, and I get in hard. Over 24 to 48 hours, make a big deal of money. This is volatility. This is what you have to learn how to manage. This is not a linear market. 1 + 1 = 2, and it will never be a linear market. There is extreme volatility in the credit markets, and the stocks will show that. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, which is fine. But some of them are actually fears which are founded in fact. And that is the uncertainty that's coming out of the credit markets. So bottom line is that if we bounce here, we get up to resistance 1, resistance 2, and then at that point, we could maybe come up here a little bit, get overbought, and you sell. So let's see what develops today. A little bit lower would be perfect buying opportunity. Even here is a good buying opportunity for short-term active traders at -42. You can look back in history and see what happens of these levels. It's not written in stone, but it's a great guide. So you have -60, you buy hard. You get -42, you kind of wait around and see what happens or dive in based on what's happening in the market. So it's not that dramatically oversold, even though the Bollingers are showing we're in the lower end of the Bollinger. It's really as simple as that. Here's the S&P starting to round the top. I explained to you on the previous video cast, so match it with that. RSI is at 46. RSI is at great buys below 50. RSI 14s, which I track very closely, are great buys below 50. Actually great buys at around 30. At 30 correlates with about -60 on the McClellan Oscillator. These things are money makers. They make you money. That's why it excites me. This is not a math lesson in college. It's real simple if you really start to look at it. Now, while this is happening, it's not simple because it's in the middle of our trading day. So, this one you can pull up every night, refresh it, and look at it. So at this point, the RSI is at 43. Love to see it around 30. If we get to around 30 by this week, I will be a heavy buyer for the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's it. Now let me see something here. Let me show you the Nasdaq one. NAMO. Okay. Do update. Look at the Nasdaq oscillator. It looks very different, doesn't it? Exactly. Because the Nasdaq is not the New York Stock Exchange, period. So this is actually a lot more positive. It didn't come down to, it came down to support. It's doing a stair step up. The resistance on this one is 23.45 in the positive. Resistance 2 is 32.92 in the positive. So we can actually go higher. The Bollingers are up here. So if you're looking at a range trading, so between the Bollingers, you can see here we're not oversold. That's fine, but we're also moving up a little bit. So this is a better looking chart than what was on the thing on the New York Stock Exchange. Why is that? Because certain Nasdaqs have done tremendously well. Look at Netflix. Look at Amazon. Look at many other Nasdaq stocks that we trade. Well, we trade a handful. Focus is key. Another thing I want to remind everyone as we move into today's session is the fact that what you're doing here is you're trading against versus the machines or with the machines. So my job, and I try to do it as best as possible, and I've been successful majority of the time, is to basically premeditate or try to figure out using my plethora of indicators, many, and advanced session members are just starting to get a feel of that. Ask them personally to read whether or not we are going to no, to try to stay one step ahead or maybe a little ahead before the machines come in. You're also trading with the hedge funds or against the hedge funds. That's the reason why certain stocks do so well on bad days or even great days. Not all stocks are really going higher. Sectors are doing different things, and even within one sector, let's say the tech sector, Google could be down, Apple could be up $3. So bottom line is they have a short list of things. I mean, they have a small list, a very concise list that they're trading. So my job is to identify them and play along with it and try to maybe one step ahead if it gets overbought. The other thing I want to keep in mind here, very importantly, that this week we have the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference. Huge stuff, huge volatility. The Apple chart, which I will be showing today in my Twitter post, you'll see that the levels are pretty defined. We could, if we get down maybe 2 or 3 points lower, I'm going to be an extremely active buyer. But Apple's going to be very choppy, and that's going to drive the market insane. Keep in mind, okay? Netflix has a major board meeting, and they're looking to split the stock and issue a dividend. That would be fantastic. That's like Apple number 2. A lot of dividend fixed income guys, dividend players, dividend growth players in the mutual fund business who don't really like Netflix whatsoever because it's such a highly priced stock, both on the valuation side as well as the growth side, on the PE side. They, they'll be jumping in. So let's keep an eye on that. Right now, futures are dropping. And as I've explained, we need to basically reset a little bit more. Thank you for listening.